Yeah, we're live. Even before 7 o'clock. Actually, my original goal for me, I'm late. My original goal was 6. I missed that by quite a bit. I'm back. Was off. We actually took a trip to Tahoe, which was very, very cool. We got to go up to where Elisa and I had our first date, which was awesome. Fall in Leaf Lake, and got to play in the waterfall, which is raging pretty hard right now because we've had lots of water. In fact, there was still snow in some of the surrounding mountain areas, so it was pretty cool. And it's pretty late, pretty late in the season not to still have snow, but the waterfalls were cool, and so I tried to. Well, I didn't try. Went across the falls, and like you do, because if it's there and you got to get to the other side because that's the goal. So hope without slipping and falling, to careen down the river in the rapids and the rocks and everything. So we did that. But I wanted to get to the other side because the last time we were there, which was I think last year, we saw trout in the river, and then also caught a water snake. So it was cool. So I wanted to go back over there and see it. I didn't think the snake was still going to be there, but I thought maybe fish would still be there. But we ended up not seeing any. But we brought the puppies, and they got to play in the waterfall. They got to swim around. Milo came, and it was all like awesome stuff. So it was very, very cool. So I'm actually gonna post some videos on that because my wife got some amazing shots of the falls, and it looks gigantic in the videos and photos and stuff. So I'll post some stuff up on Instagram, Facebook, and that kind of stuff. So that was cool. But I'm back and we're ready to talk performance. And the video that I'm working on right now is I have a trio, in fact, of 427s that I did in successive kind of power levels. So I'm working on that video right now. And the thumbnail that I have up, and we can take a look at that. Let's see here. Go. So this is the thumbnail here. This is a 427. And you can see it's got I made this valley plate for it just to stop oil from coming up and splashing on the, it's not a big deal. In fact, a factory big block, a Gen 6 big block, has this from the factory, so it's not that big a deal. This thing had, at the time, had airflow research heads on it, and we were doing all kinds of different things in different intake manifolds and all kinds of stuff. I'm testing on that. But that was one of the things that I did in an effort to, you got to look for power when you're doing engine masters in all of the normal things, your camshaft and your cam timing and different rocker ratios and intake manifolds and carburetors and spacers and dividers and just all kinds of stuff. But also in weird areas like this, the oiling system is a good place to go look. And I'm trying to get together the testing that I did on the Milodon oil pan upgrade, because that was a pretty good upgrade compared to the pan that we originally had on some of these motors. This was actually a test motor that I was testing different things on before we would go and put together the final iteration. And so we ran, because I had that before we had the other motor ready, before we had the official motor ready. So we're doing some just base stuff, just taking a look. Hey, what should we use? A Dominator carburetor? Should we use a 4150? Which one's better? Because not only were we looking for maximum power, we're looking for average power, basically. So there's a lot of considerations and a lot of things you wouldn't normally try. If you were just looking for peak power, you might try one thing. If you're just looking for low speed power, you might try something else. But if you're looking for the combination of both of them, the things that you're going to try and things that are going to, and certainly, as I found out, the things you're going to succeed with are definitely different. So that's so what I want to find out is if you guys wanted to see a video on. I found some photography just ran across it recently. In fact, today on the Engine Masters Challenge, I took a series of photos when we were doing that stuff. So if you guys want to see, I can do a video on the Engine Masters Challenge motor, and we could talk about the build up and lots of things that we tried and kind of what the results were. I just need to be able to go back and get all of the dyno data. I'm not sure I still have access to all that, but if I do, then I want to do a video on. In fact, that will be our poll for today. Okay, do you want to see a video on the EMC 410 stroker Ford finalist motor? We did, lots of cool stuff on it because I'm not smart enough to put together something on my first try and have it be that good. I don't know a lot of people that are. When you're trying to get to the nth degree, you have to do a lot of testing. All of the guys, everybody that I talked to, Bischoff and Kazi and Dave was there. All these guys have done lots and lots of testing, and to find out, oh, it'd be good is another 2 horsepower average, or another 1 horsepower, or another 5. Another 5 would be awesome. Two or three or whatever at a time would be good. The fun thing though, is at the beginning of all of this, you're getting big chunks. Oh, look, here's another 10, here's another 8, here's another 11, and then here's another 1, but there's also a lot of backsliding. So here's less, and here's less, and here's less. Here's the same, here's the same, here's less, here's 1, and then eventually, if you get enough wins there, you get to where you have a fairly good combination. So it was a lot of fun. It was an experience, and I remember going through all this thinking, I don't know that I'm going to do this again. this is an awful lot of work. It's endless hours of really, really late night stuff, but it was fun. It was cool. It's like going racing and trying to find out what you can do to make the combination work. So let's see how you guys are doing. I'm going to be working on the 427 video. Also, hopefully the Mylodon oil pan test. We're working on that. I've got some more stuff. I asked Brian Tooley to run the stage 4 camshaft with the LS3 headed stuff, so I can do a comparison between the LS3 headed stuff and the LS7, so we can do a cylinder head test, so we can figure out, how does all that stuff, it's actually technically it's an LS7 head and intake versus an LS3 head and intake. And then even more specific, it's this ported head from TrickFlow versus those ported heads from Bischoff. So again, no heads that we pick from on either side are going to be representative of all LS3 heads or all LS7 heads. So that's all. And I also asked Brian to take a look. He said we might have a CID single plane intake manifold, which they could run with fuel injection and then a big 4-hole carburetor or 4-hole throttle body or whatever, and then hopefully he can run that, which would be cool if we can run the CID intake manifold. Lots of guys have asked about that to see if it does do what they say that it does, and so I'm curious, having tested lots and lots of these 1-piece and 2-piece CNC ported 4-barrel style EFI or even carbureted. I've run them both ways. Intake manifolds for LS3s and LS7s. And I would like to see it do the thing that they're saying that it does compared to the mass manifold, the guys from CID. I'd like to see it. I want it to do that, but until I see it, and until I see it on this motor, if we were running the motor, the intake manifolds that we're running already, and something stepped in and said, hey, look, here's an extra 20, I'd be surprised. If it said, here's an extra 30 or 40 or 50, I would be pretty amazed. So we'll see what happens. If he has one, hopefully they're able to run that, but we'll find out. It will be cool stuff. So let's see what everybody's doing tonight. Richard, what's up? Are you going to NHRA in Sonoma? No, I don't really go to very many drag races. Twin turbo gas, which I'm sorry I had to Google it. What did you Google? Watching an old video of yours and found me an M122 GT500 blower with only 1,000 miles on for the upgrade to a bigger blower. Throttle body intake pipe for $1,000. Nice. So what are you going to put the M122 on? Richard, when you're going to do a video addressing remote tuning, is it something I'm considering, and maybe others? I'm in New Jersey and don't have any options. I don't do any remote tuning, so any video that I would have to do on remote tuning would only be a video on something that somebody else did. So I'm not a tuner, so that's not the kind of thing I can do directly unless I did it with James or somebody. How often do you argue with older guys that exhaust back pressure isn't a good thing, or argue with people that their base 99 Honda Accord doesn't need 91, 93? Oh, 91, 93 octane fuel, you mean? Some motors will respond to that, not necessarily. I mean, some motors don't need it because they can make all of the power that they need to make on regular gas because they're low compression and they're not real high horsepower deals anyway. Some Accords, especially later ones with K series in them, will definitely respond to higher octane because they're running on the edge of, they're running with an aux sensor and they're running on the edge of detonation. So if you put higher octane fuel in it, it will put in more timing and then it will allow more timing and it'll make more power. A lot of stuff doesn't. The exhaust back pressure is a good question. And it's not just old guys, it's everybody. They still seem to think that, hey, I want more back pressure that will get more boost response. And the back, I never know which one they're talking about. They're talking about back pressure after the turbo, because that's, or they're talking about back pressure between the turbo and the manifold, because you're always going to have that. But usually they think that they want, small restrictive exhaust to get back pressure to get the turbo to spool up, when the actually the opposite of that. And on the NA motor, you don't need any back pressure. Richard, I saw the L7 intake manifold and it left me wishing I had more room under the hood. I got the updated build sheet from TSP and the new cam is a 242/54. That's not huge for a LS7. The LS7 stuff is always bigger. Why does anybody say no to these polls? I know more free information is definitely better. I agree. Don't they average torque against horsepower? In Engine Masters, what we did is they took average horsepower in a given RPM range, average torque in a given range, add the two up, and then divide by 2. So they're weighing the two. Wish you could give you my fast 102 LS7 to borrow for your testing. If it's a stock one, I've tested stock fast 102s a lot, and on LS7s and know what they do. I'm personally not interested in anything outside the LS platform. You should broaden your horizons. There's lots and lots of good stuff out there. Maximum horsepower for the Chupacabra truck. LY5 block. I'm hoping that we get some more. I want to do some more Gen 5 testing, and so Brian has done a bunch of that. So I can use some of his data from the buildup that he did on the LT1, where they made 750 or 760 horsepower with an LT1 with a 6.2 is really impressive. I mean, that's a lot of power, and that's not even cheating with nitromethane. It's just methanol. But the right cam and ported heads, and heads have been ported and milled, and the right intake manifold, and then they notch the pistons, and so that's really good NA power. And then think about what we were talking about when I was down there the last time, is now think about that motor with nitromethane. I mean, for an all motor deal, that'd be pretty sporty. Uh, 318 is the best engine ever. That's right. Or according to Dulcich, it's the 383 Mopar, I think. A no to the poll might be a person not as interested in Fords as other stuff. Yeah, but a no doesn't tell you that I'm not interested in Fords. What constitutes a big cam is definitely bigger than a K-Tech Torquer cam I used to have. Also good to know on the LS7 fast intake manifold. The cam that was in the let's see, what was yours? 242. 242, 258. Yeah, that big nitrous cam was a 260 something, 246 and 662 lift. But that didn't make as good a power as just the stage 4 Brian Tooley LS7 cam. Any plans for more LS7 testing? Yeah, I have. I'll probably will do a couple more videos, because I haven't done the video with the naturally the guys at Brian Tooley Racing also did their own intake manifolds when they were testing all of these. Now these are the equalizer. I don't know if they ran the equalizer on the LS7. I'll have to check. I know that they ran the Trinity manifold, And then on the Trinity manifold is a short runner, high RPM deal. So it's going to want to rev out there. I have a stock LQ4 with a 4L80, except I have an LS1 intake manifold with a Terminator X-Max waiting on the cam from BTR. I'm so anxious. 1966 Le Mans convertible. Very, very cool car. The LS1 intake manifold is not what I would pick. I would pick something else, but building a 410 Windsor, solid roller, stock block. Victor Jr. heads, Howard's cam, Ford Motorsport intake. Looks like Victor Jr. Yeah, the Ford, Edelbrock did those for Ford. Just down to getting the solid lifters. Any recommendations? I've used I use the comp solid stuff, and now they have elite lifters and some others that I don't remember if I've tried them on the Fords. Any recommendations for a cam with the 122? Yeah, just pick the cam not based on the fact that you have a blower, because that doesn't matter. You want to pick the cam for what you want the cam to do in aid. So do you want it to idle well? Do you want it to have low speed power? Do you want it to use with a stock converter? You know, what is it you're trying to do with the camshaft? And then you're just adding a blower, and the blower is just going to add more power to whatever's there. Are you a fan of the new Dodge Hemi? Yeah, I wrote a book on Hemis, so I am very familiar with them, and I do like them. I think that they're a lot like the LS. They were hurt, I think, originally when they were first introduced by the fact that nobody had tuning for them. And so even though they had really good cylinder heads and responded very well to cams like LS motors do, that because people were blowing them up because you didn't have the ability to tune them, I think they got a bad reputation, which is why I did the Big Bang Hemi, so that we could show people, look, you can make 1,000 horsepower with these early 5.7s as long as you do the two things that you're supposed to. You're supposed to put ring gap in them, which nobody did. And then you're also supposed to tune them properly. You're supposed to give them the right air, fuel, and timing, and not just go, well, whatever happens, happens. That's not a good deal. Just picked a good used Performer RPM and Holley 750 vacuum secondary for my 383 small block. That's the quintessential combination, especially for a 383. Richard, I want to see more big bore stuff. Okay. Looking forward to it being in the car once again. Thanks for your advice. Let me know what happens. That's a good sized cam. I'm assuming that this is a stick car. Just sorry, I'm late. I just finished detailing a Jeep Wrangler. Was it from being out in the mud? Jeep country. Danny, sorry, did you invest in the startup or something? 07 Corvette Z06. Okay. No, the power, just a little weight. Yeah, that'll be a good combination. That'll be a lot of car. There's a YouTube video of a cop in a Hellcat going 160. Brian has that T-Rex truck, and judging by the power that thing had given its weight and stuff, that kind of power in a Hellcat would it would easily go 160. So as I get broken in, I think I'll take it up to the Tail of the Dragon. I think Sean was telling me about the Tail of the Dragon. I don't think I've ever been there. Mall crawler, it was fairly clean, just had some bugs. Oh, the guy does a lot of traveling. Yeah, there were a lot of gnats on our drive. I think Lisa had to wash her car twice, but we had dogs in it and beach and all kinds of stuff. Any tips for power on a Ford Cosworth Rally? Oh, that is super cool. Are you in another country? That doesn't sound like a US kind of thing. But yes, I mean, I think that the same thing works on a Ford Cosworth motor. It's going to be ported head, cams, boosts, you know, all that stuff. Does it have like stack injection on it and stuff? Very, very cool. Oh, you have to go to hit the Dragon early in the AM. Oh, Aussie. Okay. So what Cosworth motor is it? I need a car that goes 160. anymore, almost any car will go 160. A 250 horsepower or 260 or 70 horsepower V6 Honda Accord, that should be a 160 mile an hour car. Stock Hellcat Red Eye does 203. I would believe that, because I know that the Corvettes would do that, and very aerodynamic. But even the Shelby GT500s with the good motor in them would go 200. Is it smart to consistently run a stock 5.3 LM7 rotating assembly, mainly rods and pistons at 700 horsepower with boost? Yeah, they'll last a long time at that power level, as long as your tune is right. You spray the front end down with WD-40 before a trip, bugs get just spray off. Oh, that's a good idea. That doesn't hurt the paint, though. How's our poll doing? 83% saying yes on the Engine Master too. Do they still do a Pikes Peak rally? Ben from the Car Farm has done a bunch of rallies out in his area, out in the Ohio area. I don't think I've ever been on a rally. Only races. The closest thing I've done to a rally is we've done. I did a race down in Mexico where we raced from like Mexico City to Acapulco or something. And then there were different stages. So we would drive, we'd have driving stages, and then we'd have race stages where everything's closed. And then we'd race through those roads for that section and then drive to the next one and race at that one. That was pretty cool. So yeah, the 200 miles an hour is only impressive if it's done in the eighth. Yeah, 200 in the eighth would be a lot. Love to get Pikes Peak to myself. I've been on it, but couldn't go fast. The hill climb event requires safety gear. Yeah, and for a good reason. You don't want to go off the edge. My wife's 08 Acura MDX will go 142. I got in her car one day and the max speed on the GPS said 142. She still denies doing it with a wicked grid. Yeah. Our 862 heads better than 706 heads. They flow identical. The performance from the two heads would be the same. One of them, I think, is supposed to crack more than the others, but I've never seen that in my testing. What do you think about the E-Force Edelbrock supercharger on a 5.7 Hemi? It works good. I mean, I think that's a isn't that a that's an Eaton rotor pack, right? Is it a 2650? I agree with the safety gears. Don't like putting cages in streetcars. Last thing I want to do is smack my head on cage in a low speed accident traffic. Yeah, that's true. Your cage should definitely be padded everywhere if you're driving around the street like I did. My Mustang, because I bought it to go showroom stock racing, I put a cage in it, and for a long time did not have padding in it. But you definitely need to have that in there. And dinging your head on it is not fun. That could definitely take you out. Take you out of the game. That's what I thought. Also, intake will keep me at a number. Okay, that's good. I mean, if you're happy with it, the LS1 is besides the LS4, the LS1 is the least powerful of all the factory LS intake combinations. The LS4 is worse. .863 heads are similar to 862 heads, but a rotocast and a thicker deck. Am I just now finding out about 863 heads? I thought an 863 head is a Isn't an 863 head a LS1 head? Or is that a rec port head? That's a rec port head, right? Yeah, his question was 706 versus 862. So what was your discussion there of 862 and a 706? What's the best spring combination for 600 to 800 horsepower stage 1 VTR? I don't know what you mean by best, and obviously this has got to be a turbo motor, right? There's literally hundreds of cams that will make that power on a 5.3. I think that a Truck Norris or something like that is a really good camshaft for that sort of power range. The Cosworth is an inline 4 all factory. Yeah, I know, but what displacement is it? Is it 2 liters? Is it bigger than that? Did you see the LSA supercharged LS4 in the DeLorean? I did not. I might RB26 swap my Cosworth. That's interesting. I mean, both obviously good motors. And RB26 isn't cheap anymore, although maybe it's cheaper over in Australia. How important is exhaust flow when it comes to making power? It's important. Are you talking about the cylinder head? Or are you talking about the exhaust flow after the turbo? After the turbo, it's very, very important. Oh, you have a spare RB26? Nice. How is it possible to turn a 351 into a 427? Most people don't do that, and not with a stock block, because you can't make the bore size big enough on a stock 5.8 block. Most people use an aftermarket block, like I did on the ones that I'm doing, which is a dart block, which is a 4125 bore. Otherwise, you're stuck with doing a 4-inch or a 4030. You might be able to go bigger than that, but the sleeves start getting thin. What some guys do is do a 4030 bore, and then they put a 4100 stroke in it. Also, I don't recommend that. So most people with a production 351 block make a 408 and don't make a 427. Seem to recall as part of the cage that killed Terry Herman at the Silver State. He was a hell of a guy. Terry was awesome. He showed me a lot of stuff. I got to race with him there and at the Virginia City Hill Climb and stuff. He was a really good instructor and a really good driver. I didn't know that the cage was part of that. Matt Happel tuned the DeLorean. By Googling, I found a similar 1987 C10 on YouTube. Would you like to know the channel, or did you already see that one? I don't know what C10 you're talking about. RB26s are expensive now. Yep. Seems like all good engines are expensive. Hard to find a unique and powerful engine that's not pricey. That's because those YouTube guys do stories about them, and then all of a sudden it brings the value up. If I was smart, I would invest in a whole bunch of them before I did a story or a video, but I haven't done that. And by that, I mean I haven't been that smart. 86% are on the yes column. Of a 2011 Holden Commodore for a daily. Nice. So have you not done anything to the Cosworth? BMW B58 and the Mark V Supers are going to be the next one like that. Your Holden has a factory LS. Is it a 5.7 in the Holden? Isn't a Mark V Supra already really expensive? There's a YouTube video with an old VW Bug with an RB26, and that's an inline 6-cylinder in a front of a Volkswagen. I mean, hey, I'm all for swaps. That's pretty cool. Oh, it's an LS3. Okay, even better. Yeah, I guess 2011 would be. Ooh, a supercharger too. Nice. Even better. What ECU do you run your turbo LS stuff? The stuff I do on the engine dyno, I run a Holley. And we normally run an HP or a Dominator. For us, they're just interchangeable. The harness is all the same. And I don't know which one to recommend. Again, I'm not a tuner. I use that because it's what I know how to use. And it's very, very quick and easy for me to do the testing that I'm doing. Because the tuning part of it is not the testing. The tuning part of it is mandatory for me to make the air fuel and timing what it needs to be to make the power that we're doing and make it consistent and repeatable and say, okay, this is how much power this thing makes. Then we change the thing, a camshaft, an intake manifold, carburetor, headers, whatever it is, and then go back and I make the air fuel and the timing the same on the new thing. And having the Holley allows me to do that very, very quickly. Because like I said, the tuning part of it is not that. That's a necessary evil that has to happen for me to compare the things I want to compare. Do you want to watch Rob Dom's 12 rotor video? Yeah, he got that from somebody else, right? That's pretty cool. It's a big block rotary. I want an RB26 and swap my Stealth, but I can't find any setups for less than, 14 to 15 grand a lot. I do watch Top Gear, although I like the old Top Gear a lot better than the newer one. I'd like the RB25 in my Z. Sean, it has the right cam in it already. It doesn't even have the wrong cam when you have a 12 rotor. 86%. They destroyed the poor Hilux. Yeah, but it took a lot. Is that 12 rotor deal, is it a bunch of the 3 rotors linked together? 3 4 rotors or 4 3 rotors? RB25 would be cool, but answering if it's all-wheel drive or not every time would get old. Why would an RB25 be an all-wheel drive in a 240Z? I don't know how we're going to make that work. Because it's not a Skyline. A Skyline would be cool. I do like Skylines. So I guess that if somebody got a Skyline and then they swapped in the Ameribara, swapped in a 4200 into that, imagine how much hate they would get for that. Do any cams where we're going? I'd like to see that. Did Rob put that? Did Rob put that thing on the dyno? Did they dyno test that 12 rotor thing? I've seen some WRX has a weird engine called a Boxer. Yeah, they're flat 4 cylinders. For the all-wheel drive you're using Infinity, I'm not. I have a 71 240Z, so it's not going to be all-wheel drive. It's not going to have any G series anything in it, and except G Willikers. He tore it down and reassembled it. First fire in his position. Probably next video, maybe. Where did it come from? Did it come from? I mean, who originally gave him this thing? Or did he buy? I mean, he makes big money, so he's the real deal. We should bring back the Mitsubishi Evo. Yeah, I agree. The WRX needs to be. It needs to have a marketplace competitor. And I always kind of like the Evo better. It's designed for a boat. Oh, for the big rotary. It's unique. It is unique. An RB25 isn't 2JZ money. An RB26 is 2JZ money. An RB25 is less, though. Some guys hand built the 12 rotor. Yeah. It's hard to find parts for the older imports. That's why I picked the. That's why I picked the Omni. That and because I met the fabulous guys at the car farm who have spare parts. I just wanted the 06 Evo and Tokyo Drift. Someone bought that car for a YouTuber. Cool. I do like those cars. I think that they're good cars. And they had the motor has plenty of potential. Guys have obviously done lots of cool stuff with them. Any sort of factory turbo thing is good to have. Sean, if you put boost in the 12 rotor, how do you tell which rotor has the source of the apex seal that leaves the exhaust? But you have 12 of them, so you have spares. That's why you have 12 of them. It's like having the jugs on a radial engine on a plane. You got extra ones, so you can stay in the air. It's very important. Extra, read all about it. I gotta see if check and see if I heard back from the gentleman that has the, what has he got, the Ram Air 5 heads for the Pontiac stuff. Very cool. This guy looks like he's Dom's true brother. I'm not that cool. I'm not Dom cool. Yeah, I don't think the gas mileage is going to be great on a 12 rotor. I was surprised. A friend of mine, a good friend of mine, had I think it was an 81 RX-7 with a 12A in it, and it really didn't get that great a gas mileage. But it's the only one around, right? It's a big block rotary. You're not trying to get good fuel mileage. You're just trying to get enough fuel to it. I think Rob mentioned his 4-rotor gets less than 10. Did he do a bunch of porting on the 4-rotor too? Is it like a bridge port or peripheral port, or did he go nuts on that thing? I had an 88 to get 19-ish. Yeah, they were not great. And did the 88 have didn't the earlier ones have a 4-speed trans in them? And I know the earlier ones had 13Bs in them too. His was all refined. His was a GSL, had leather and all that stuff in it, and a sunroof, thumping stereo. The 4-rotor's a street port. Okay. I saw that thing throwing flames. Doesn't that thing have a big turbo on it too? Or does it have more than one turbo? Seems a lot of 410 small floors are built for torque in mind. This one was too. This was sub 7,000 RPM is where we had to make our power. I think, if I remember right, I think it was 2,500 to 7,000 was our test range, RPM range. Scrolling. It's going back to look at a previous comment. Just going back, going way back. A silly big turbo. Don't know what it is. Yeah, it's a very big turbo. I mean, it made a lot of power, right? Some kind of turbo normally meant for pro mods. Have a chance to buy a 73 RX3. Yeah, those are cool. Tommy, you want an EFI complete system that's simple, easy, and not finicky. The stock one is what I would use. Ford Racing 302 SV aluminum heads, E303 cam. I would use a factory HO like a Mustang ECU and harness. I mean, I have a Mustang, so that's what I would use. The heck are miles? Kilometers. Yeah, we don't do kilometers. I know. I think I'm going to keep the factory. I think I have an A9L on the Mustang. I think I'm going to keep that in there. I love the small block Ford stuff. Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff out there. I'm trying to think if we've ever done. I've never done standing kilometers or anything. I know some of the like 300 kilometers an hour is, I think, 186 or something, because I remember them talking about that with back in the Lamborghini Countach and Ferrari Testarossa and Boxer and stuff back then. That was a big deal to get them to go 300 kilometers an hour. Because I remember early on they used to say, "Oh yeah, these cars go, pick your number, 175, 180 miles an hour." They're like, yeah, they really didn't until later on. Then they did when they started when they realized, hey, people actually have access to going that fast, and they also have access to dynos and stuff. And not only that, they're very adamant about telling people about what really is there and what really is not there. My Honda CRV go 300 kilometers per hour. That'd be a really fast CRV. What aftermarket block? I would do a Dart or a, trying to think what else. Ford Racing probably has a block for it also. They probably have a Sportsman block for that you could do. Random question: how do you set up an engine on the dyno? Is there a flywheel? Yeah, we run a flywheel, and then we have a drive plate that looks almost a little bit like a clutch. It has a clutch center section, but it's either aluminum or steel. So this hub to clutch center section is bolted to that. And then that drive plate, you bolt to the flywheel. So the flywheel is bolted on just the way that it always does. 6 bolts, 8 bolts, whatever. We use ARP hardware for that stuff. And then you bolt the drive plate, which has a splined hub in the center of it. You bolt that to the flywheel, and then all of that slides onto, there's a input shaft sticking out of the dyno that's splined. And when I say splined, not a fine spline, really not fine. 6 or 8 or something like that splines on it, and it engages in the drive hub, and then the engine spins that, and there's a water brake on it that tells you, that loads the motor and stuff. And then you just put, we have the engine on a hoist, so we just make sure that the engine's level, and then we put motor mounts on it. Either we bolt motor mounts that we've made directly to the block, or sometimes we use factory motor mounts and then bolt them to a through. We have a little slider that goes through, and you pin them, and it's adjustable. And it's really, that part of it's really, really very easy. How expensive it is if you snap the input shaft? That'd be really, really rare that you would snap an input shaft, because you're not shock loading anything on the dyno. If you break an input shaft, it's because something else let go normally. And an input shaft bolts on and off. It's really easy. I mean, it's doweled and bolted in place to a receiver flange on the dyno. So an input shaft, if you were to break the input shaft, you just replace that. It takes more time just to unbolt the engine from the dyno, and then there's 4 bolts holding the input shaft, and that just comes off and goes back on. Does it have to be a flywheel, or can it be a flex plate? We've run stuff with flex plates also, but normally we use a flywheel. Remember seeing a video of some guy in a Ferrari that hit 400 kilometers an hour? That'd be a lot. $250 miles an hour? That seems like a lot. Yeah, 248 miles an hour. Did you do a video comparing LS3 heads versus LS7 heads on the same engine? Not yet. Right now, they're trying to run the LS3 heads with the same cam that was run on the LS7 heads, so that we have that data. Should dyno some Holdens. The Holdens that have LS motors in them were essentially doing that already. So all of the LS stuff carries over to the Holdens. I don't know any aftermarket block under $5,000. Are they really that much? Ford 351 race blocks. Let's see, the Boss blocks are 2,800. I don't know. I'm not showing. I'm not looking to see where that is. Ford Racing Boss 351 blocks and jegs. Let's see. No, I don't want that. 4120 rough bore, $3,000 for a Boss block at Jegs or Summit. And they're 4120 rough bore, 4-bolt cast iron Boss 351 9.2 deck height. So you can get, and they're obviously 4-bolt deals. LS7 crate engine with an LS4 intake manifold. That's a good combination. And then you have to put the LM7 camshaft in that. Actually at 404, that's pretty fast. can get a Godzilla block for 1,000. I think it's a G42 1450. Okay. So that's not, I mean, that's not overly huge. It's a good turbo. I mean, it can make a lot of power. Sean, it's not actually possible to manufacture enough batteries for everyone to have an electric car for the foreseeable future. And imagine what the lithium's going to cost, but that's not even the problem. The grid won't. Imagine if everybody's plugged in their thing at night, the grid would just explode. There's not enough grid for all that electricity. What hardware and software is used for tuning late 90s, early 2000s Fords? I don't know. I don't do any tuning. Mine's an 88. And I'm sure that there's got to be software for that. Back in the day, we used to put Pro-Ms on 36-pound meter, 36-pound injectors. There, it's tuned. And then the tuning software came out. Toyota has a hydrogen engine. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the grid can't. The grid is like not like that's not possible. It's and I don't think it's ever going to be possible. The grid right now can't handle everybody turning on their AC. You have a favorite daily driver carb? No, there's lots of good carburetors out there. A Quadrajet works really well. A little Brawler, an inexpensive Brawler carburetor. Any properly tuned carburetor is good for daily. For an EFI on a 408 Windsor, is better to use a 90mm throttle body or a 1000 CFM 4-hole carb like a throttle body using Holley EFI. I don't know. I've tested both of those on an LS motor, and there was no difference in power. I don't know what power level the 408's at. I think that's going to be more of a function of your hood clearance and the way that you want it to look, because an elbow is going to obviously be different. Like a 1000 CFM 4-hole throttle body is going to be more like a carburetor kind of thing. So if that's what you're trying to present, then that works well. I don't think you're going to see a performance difference between those two. You can make some decent power carb swapping a 4.3 cam and Vortec heads. Yeah, I like the little 4.3 that I did with a, you put a small cam in. I wish there were more intakes available and aluminum heads other than the Brodex stuff. Like there was an Edelbrock Performer RPM head or Trick Flow twisted wedge head or something like that for the 4.3. Isn't the bore spacing on a small block Chevy and an LS is the same, right? Bullet cams ground me at 232, 236. That's a good one. Is that cam in a V6? Oh, is the Camaro going to be no more? Yeah, but they change their mind always on that. Is the Camaro not selling? So we're going to close our poll 88. So it jumped up a little bit on our poll for the EMC stroker. We're going to end our poll there. There will be an electric crossover. They're they're going to make what people buy, unfortunately. Your 4.3 liter made 400 horsepower. What heads were on it? I built a manual 2021 ZL1. That's a good one. Is that 4.3 liter V6 that makes 400 horsepower? Is that a Brodix headed thing? Regulations aren't stopping the cars from being built. The market dictates that. And the vast majority of people don't buy performance cars, at least in America. They buy trucks. They sell way more trucks than everything else. Have you done a dyno test on Edelbrock carburetor, an AVS2? I don't think I've run. I mean, I think I've run one of those carburetors, but I don't remember testing it versus something else. Vortec heads built by O&E Speed Shop in New Orleans. So were the Vortec, how heavily ported were the Vortec heads? Because 400 horsepower out of 6 cylinders is a lot of airflow. And I didn't think you could get a Vortec head to flow that much. But I haven't done any porting on them. One more minute. Is anybody else watching the Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch? Or is that just me? Pretty sure they found a wormhole. I want it to be true. We'll have to talk about that when we do the live feed. We do the live feed marathon. Man, those things are dirty. I can't see it. Can't even see out of them. I saw Tony Angelo's deal. I commented on it. Watching Mandalorian. I do want to watch that. I just don't have Disney. Danny, I don't have any idea what thing you're referencing. The thing that whatever you're talking about. I don't have any idea. I need to try to map it. I need to try to map that anomaly. I need to figure out how to do it. Lots of rockets is one way, but I need to come up with something much more clever. There needs to be a way for you to be able to see what's there, if something is there. I want it to be there. It's like Bigfoot. I want Bigfoot to be there. Okay, I gotta get going. I gotta go get my 427 video done, and then obviously we gotta try to get the information on the Engine Masters deal. I found the photos, which is cool. That's a good start. And also, I want to do the oil pan test with the Mylodon kickout pan, winch tray, and stuff, because that was worth some good power. I just need to find all the information. Hope we don't find Bigfoot. I'd avoid if I was big. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, weird people are not good. There's lots of good ones. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to tell you about a good person that I met up at, when we were on a trip up at Tahoe. I'm going to salute him because he was awesome. Car guy, which I like. That's how you find good people, are car guys. On that note, it's time to go. I will see you all tomorrow.